I think that we're at the beginning of, people keep saying a new normal, and
I said that yesterday. When I first went like plant-based, my parents thought that it was like this white person thing.
This notion that it is a white thing is just a recent thing. It's actually been a people of color thing for a very long time. Do you feel like plant-based is widely accepted within the Black community?
I think that it depends on how you advocate for it. I think that veganism, for me at least, like I approach veganism as I would any other form of like activism. And so there's a reverence for all living beings. I'm not trying to speak over anyone. I'm not trying to like tell someone else how to live their life. And I'm very like live and let live. Like that's just the energy that I try to bring to the conversation. And I think that Black people are like to a T. Like we're just like, we do our thing, we mind our business, like let's go. And so I just try to keep that energy when I advocate for veganism, and I find that like it's more accepted in that sense. But there's obviously nuance to it. When I first went like plant-based, my parents thought that it was like this white person thing, and they were like, I don't know, like are you just trying to get out of like, because cleaning a chicken is like one thing that is pretty, like when you're like 12 or 13, it's like you have to learn how to like clean your meat. And I refused to, like I was like, I'm not doing this, like it just does not align. And so they thought that it was me just trying to like avoid that or get away from it. But I mean, like I wasn't trying to do that, but in the Caribbean, there's this diet, it's not really a diet, but like Rastafarian people, it's called ITAL. And so when I was telling my dad about that, or like speaking more from that lens and not using the term vegan and be like, oh yeah, like maybe I'm just like a Rasta, you know, like, whatever. And so like that was more like, oh, okay, like we do that too. And it's not like you're not going into this so that you can like get away from who you are, like your culture. It's really just like, this is what aligns with you like ethically, and you make it work. Like you make so many dishes that are, you know, like traditional Ghanaian and they're like plant-based. So yeah, I think that also taking, because when you were talking about explaining it to your dad through like Rastafarianism and stuff like that, it's like the label plant-based or vegan sounds very foreign, but then when you start to explain it in the terms of like, we've been eating like this for a very long time. Like I can really speak to, on the West African side, a lot of our food is plant-based. So when you start to explain it to, like when I was explaining it to my parents about that, like we eat beans and plantains and beans and rice, like they understood it. So it's like, I think that it depends on how it's talked about, that, oh, okay, we get it. Like this is something that we've been doing for a long time. Once you start to add these labels that have been associated with white people, non-people of color, then it starts to seem like it's foreign. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how do you feel about plant-based eating being referred to as white people?
When I first went plant-based, mainly really when I went vegan, it was just a stereotypical white, blonde, skinny woman, and I didn't really see myself in that, or I didn't really hear about veganism beyond that, or even just plant-based eating beyond that. So it's so easy to connect the two. But I think that now with more people of color that are living plant-based lifestyles, and obviously it's been more on the people of color have been living this way for a very long time, I think people are actually like talking about that a lot more, and in reality that this notion that it is a white thing is just a recent thing. It's actually been a people of color thing for a very long time. And just like recognizing that and talking more about that.
How does Black veganism differ from white veganism? That's a question.
I think that because we already have a minority status, there's a lot more things that we think about in terms of intersectionality of veganism and how to make it more accessible to people of different groups. And I think that that's a big distinction I see between Black vegans, people of color that are also vegans, just because you're just a lot more aware of other people's lives and what they have access to and what they don't. And I didn't see that as reflected within quote unquote white veganism. It was very much specific on do this, don't do that. Like you have to not eat animals, you have to do this, and especially even with animal activism. And then, so I feel like Black vegans, people of color who are vegans, there's a lot more things that we are always thinking about. Is plant-based eating for everyone? Should everyone eat plant-based?
Yeah, I think it's like everyone should do what it is that they're able to do, right? Like, and of course, eating a fully plant-based diet may not be reasonable or accessible for everyone, but like we can all do our part to a certain extent. And I think that that's what's important, more so than like just saying, everyone, let's go plant-based. Like it's like to the extent that you can, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's for everyone, but obviously like you have to be cognizant about how you talk about that to everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like for me personally, I have the privilege to make the choices of the food that I eat. And for some people who are experiencing food apartheid, for example, that they don't have that opportunity to make choices, or if they're working multiple jobs and trying to survive, like I'm always cognizant about that. So it's always about do what is best for you, and like if you have the privilege to make choices about your food, that is something that I would encourage more people to think about and actually like make choices to be less on the animal agriculture, animal food, and then like really plant-centered. So yeah, it really depends.
Do you feel like Black veganism or plant-based is welcome within white vegan or plant-based spaces?
I think now it's changing, because before it just felt like there was a big divide between, in terms of white vegans or people who are living plant-based and are non-people of color, and there was just such a very insular focus on the food or animal rights activism. And then now, as we had the Black Lives Matter movement and people are really talking about intersectionality, and a lot of people are willing to learn, really understanding their privilege. And I'm seeing that a lot in social media. Like I'm like trying to actively follow other people of color, Black vegans, then they're starting to really see how the two can come together, and there's more acceptance with that, even though it's like we're not looking for your acceptance, but like more like acknowledgement, and like, okay, there's so many different perspectives that they haven't considered. Let me like try, like as if I was a white vegan or something like that, like the thought process was like, okay, I have privilege, let me see where I've fallen and like how I can be a part of this conversation but not take away someone's space. So that's how I'm starting to see that there's a lot more people who are willing to have a conversation, and also understanding that there's a place for everyone and that we shouldn't be separating the two. I think that we're at the beginning of, people keep saying a new normal, and
I said that yesterday.
No, but like it's really interesting because we've been here before. I think that a conversation that should and continuously should be had is making this sustainable, in a sense that you're constantly thinking about how you and your life impacts other people, your words, especially those with such large platforms. How are they using their voices and trying to at least make their stuff more accessible to other people, and not push stuff like diet culture and like oil-free, this, that. I'm not saying you shouldn't cook what you want to cook, but just being more mindful and always consistently, like with your large platform, still supporting creators of color, using your platform to show that there's so many different other people that other people can relate to. What stereotypes are you just damn over? Let's put them to rest now.
I guess the salad part, like the fact that like vegans only eat salads. I must say that we make the best salads. So like when, you know what I mean? Like when people think of salads, like there's a difference between when someone who eats a plant-based diet makes a salad and someone who isn't, because it's like the possibility, like it's just
endless. And you have to like think about the protein, and you want to make sure that it's like a balance.
The grain, maybe you have like a quinoa in there, with a little like, a little recipe. Add some earth's own. I think like that stereotype, and then also like ties into like the stereotype of vegans being thin or
Oh my
having
God.
certain body type. And I didn't realize how much of veganism in like the mainstream world is colored by fat phobia and diet culture. And it just leaves fat vegans or fat people who like adopt plant-based diet completely out of the conversation, and it perpetuates like fat phobia and diet culture and sizes them too. I think it's really important for people to see different bodies, different people who eat plant-based and are just like out here thriving. So I think that that's like, those are probably the two big stereotypes.
I can definitely echo the size aspect, just because it's like when I went vegan, the narrative was like, I did it for sustainability. Obviously health was part of it. It was like, you're gonna eat this, you can lose weight, you're gonna look great, your skin's going to clear up and things like that. And in reality, that's not, people come in different shapes and sizes, and what healthy means to you is different from me. And that's the biggest stereotype that I really do not like. And also, I'm not a big salad eater. I just like my rice and beans. It's like and I think that that's important too, to talk about that, because then again, it makes it more inclusive.